Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Brayman for Senior Moments. I don't know about you, but I could use some warm weather right now. And while we're waiting for spring to come, turn on your TV and tune into Senior Moments. Senior Moments covers events and activities at senior centers in the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area, such as the Ann Arbor Senior Center, Turner Senior Resources Center, the Pittsfield Senior Center, and the Ann Arbor Community Center. Also, the show provides valuable information for senior citizens on such issues as health, wealth, finance, and entertainment. Senior Moments is a monthly show. It premieres on the last Sunday of the month at 5 p.m. and it reruns 10 times a week on CTN, Channel 16. Please check out our website, a2gov.org/CTN, for the playback schedule. Also, you can watch the show on YouTube. Please log on to youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to view current and archived shows. If you haven't been out much this winter, I'm sure you are anxious for spring. Meantime, don't forget Senior Moments. Hello, welcome to Senior Moments. I'm Linda Brayman, and our guest today is Lannis Smith from Leslie Science and Nature Center in Ann Arbor. Welcome, Lannis.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's good to have you here. Now, I remember the Leslie Science Center being a great place for my children when they were all young, but it's not called that anymore, is it? What is it now?
Yeah, the title of the organization has changed over the years. We've been an organization for a little over 30 years. Currently, we have our name as the Leslie Science and Nature Center. However, there's also a recent partnership we have with the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum. While our site titles are different, we are in a way one cohesive organization with a very similar mission. But if you visit the site that we have, you'll notice it as the Leslie Science and Nature Center.
Very good, thank you. So a new name, a new generation, but just as my children grew up, so did I, grew older, and so did our audience. But I still see lots for children and much for families on the site, but not for senior citizens per se. So I'm very interested to know which of the programs would be appropriate and enjoyable to us older people. And can you make a distinction which would be appropriate or good for those who lose their balance or walk slowly, and what would work for those who can run as fast as their grandchildren and leap over tall buildings in a single bound?
Of course. We can look at our educational programs in kind of two sections. We have the ones that can happen on the property, outdoors, at the center grounds. And then we have programs that are in an outreach category where we actually travel to other locations or to buildings, to events. Most of the programs that we have done with older audiences within the past few years have fallen within that outreach category, where we actually can travel either to an assisted living center, bring some of the wildlife that we have that we use in our educational programs, and present a topic of science or a program of their choice in choosing to that audience. We also have been doing virtual programs like this for a little over a decade. And while on the website, it shows the science standards we hit and the grades that they're best suited for, really any age or age group can take on any of those programs. We've also done virtual programs for senior audiences, whether for it's a fair and festival with another organization, or maybe it's a group that have limited transport or mobility issues and can't physically come visit the site. Therefore, we take the initiative to come visit you, whether in person or a video screen. If folks come to visit the site or wish to have some kind of tour that involves looking at our main campus as well as the animals that are housed there, usually what we refer to are what we call our custom programs. You are correct, and many of our school grade programs or public programs are typically geared toward a family target audience. But that's not to say that they can't be modified or customized to fit something that a different age group might want. What we try to do with any of our programs, if you go on on our website and you see a theme or a set of animals you really want to meet, we are really open to the conversation of making that program work or finding different content, terminology, and activities that make sense for that age group. We just put it in a overarching custom program because it might look different than if we gave it to a 5th grade audience versus a senior audience.
Sure, that sounds good. Now, you mentioned the places where senior citizens can retire, the residences. Do you go to senior centers?
Yes, we do. We've gone to a couple, not only Independence Living Center, but actual senior centers, both within Southeast Michigan, but also close to the West Coast near Grand Rapids. At least that's the farthest I've traveled for one of these programs. Oftentimes, these are 1-hour programs where it's more of a presentation or demo style, opening the floor for discussions or questions. We've also worked with audiences that may be struggling with dementia or those that may have arthritis, other mobility issues, and can't do hands-on activities. And so we try to also customize those programs if we're going to see you based on the setting, how many people are going to be there, if there's ones that may have sensitive hearing or maybe unable to hear and see well, that kind of still will then fall within that custom program realm where we try to at least get a clear idea what the audience needs so we can make sure that we prepare that program for success.
Yeah, sure. Now, you take the animals, some of the animals with you, and do you also have lots of pictures? Because I know when you get to be my age, even though I don't see as well or hear as well, I still love lots of pictures and to see the real thing.
Oh,
Tell us
absolutely.
about how that would work.
Yeah, that experience is undeniable and definitely one that people remember throughout their lives, whether they're 5 or 55. Yes, a lot of our outreach programs that we have specifically from the Science and Nature Center usually involve some kind of live animal, or what we like to call them as our wildlife coworkers. They probably teach as much as I do, if you will. All of the wildlife we take or can travel, they usually go through a series of training just to make sure that they are comfortable being transported, seeing a new audience in person. Oftentimes we bring a lot of our animals that we know are comfortable in, say, an unpredictable setting where there may be lots of distractions or maybe lots of noise. We try to also bring a variety of wildlife so there is that experience regardless of what topic we're talking about. Oftentimes ways that we can create memories and really you can see the features best is by seeing the actual animal itself. However, because there are some things we talk about that we can't actually bring or demonstrate, you're correct in highlighting we'll have pictures or slides or specimens that people could touch, view, and still have that kind of tactile experience.
Okay, I was wondering about a possibility of touching the live animals. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it just depends on the animal. Especially with we have a lot of reptiles, for example, that part of their training is actually learning how to be touched by other humans. We have a couple other specific teachers who are a little on the older end, but have been doing programs for a while where we've been able to incorporate that into their training. We have some of our insects and invertebrates we also do that with. So you do kind of get that unique experience.
So what are some other specific animals that you bring besides those snakes and the insects? I don't think anyone wants to touch the insects. I'll pass.
Probably the animal group that people recognize or know of the most when they hear the Leslie Science and Nature Center are our birds of prey. If folks do come and visit the site, we have an ADA accessible pathway that leads to our raptor loop or our bird of prey section. Those animals live outside on our grounds all year round, but many of them are able to travel or have traveled for educational programs. While we're not allowed to have folks specifically touch the live animals, those would be ones that we would bring specimens for. Hawks, owls, vultures, falcons all fall in this category. And each of those birds in that group we've brought out to a program. I'd probably say that our bird of prey programs are probably our more popular ones, or at least the ones that I remember doing the most often at either senior living facilities or independent living facilities.
I think being in the company of those birds itself would just be so exciting. You know, say to your grandchildren, I saw a raptor, and they'll say, oh, Jurassic Park. And that's my first thought when I hear raptor. I'm thinking prehensile raptors from Jurassic Park
Yeah.
who opened the doors to get at the children. And those raptors were so smart, they trapped the hunter.
Oh,
So in reality, reveal us to the real raptors. Tell us a little bit more about them.
yeah, I love that you highlighted kind of what you can relate them to too, because I find with working with a lot of our older audiences, our programs end up being a big storytelling event where people are able to share experiences of maybe a memory they had where they saw a hawk catch an animal outside their front door, or
Yes.
they were listening and looking for owls near their parents' house. Or I find I get the most memorable or most interesting stories specifically about birds of prey coming from our older audiences, because they've been able to see or interact with these creatures, right? They may have lived by or near their natural habitats and had more time or space to see these animals. You definitely are right to highlight the dinosaur aspect too, especially with families. We usually hear that word raptor means to grab. So
Yes.
oftentimes when we think of raptor, you think of that dinosaur, right? A velociraptor. And they had some very similar features to the birds of prey we have now. So then there's this unique connection to like how animals have developed these features over time and the similarities. And then you share that family experience too of that time you saw Jurassic Park.
Yes. And I think that no matter how many times you see wildlife, it is exciting. Every time my children would see a deer, they're prolific in the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area, and my children see them all the time.
Yeah.
They go, oh, a deer, a deer, a deer. And when my grandchildren visited us, it was rabbits. Oh, look at the rabbit, there's a rabbit, there's a rabbit. And we have hawks who, we came home one day and two hawks were flying above us, and one of them had a carcass in its claws, grasping the rabbit's carcass. And I said, oh my goodness, they must have just killed that. The head was missing. Oh, I don't mean that we're going to have to rate this probably an R rating, Tim. Sorry, it's a little bit graphic here. But it was just fascinating. And we're driving up the driveway and the two of them are flying, and it dropped the carcass, and I felt bad. I thought, oh, hurry, let's get to the house so we don't interrupt their meal, but I'm dying to watch them eat.
Yeah,
I know that sounds a little bit bizarre, but we're so fascinated by wildlife. We really are.
We hear those experiences and stories all the time. And one of the reasons we have these animals are because many of them have injuries to where they cannot be released into the wild.
Oh.
And so one of our big messages behind having these animals is that they are not our pets, right? They're still very much wild animals.
Yes.
And in those programs, we really try to harness understanding their wild instincts. What we try to also give a message of is, because they're in captivity, because they are under our care, we try to justify that by having them be teachers. So we can share in those experiences of, hey, I saw this wild animal do this, it was really cool, and highlight like that is a great way to interact with that creature. We're thankful you didn't bother them when they took their food. We're really thankful you were able to watch them from afar, but made sure you didn't get any closer. And while with the animals we have, we can put them in training so people can see them up close. We use them as ambassadors to help people better understand how they can interact with them in the wild.
So would we get to see a raptor rip apart a rabbit?
Not probably in one of those programs, just because it takes a while.
I'm just kidding.
We do have public raptor feeding events where people can come and watch our raptors eat.
Oh, they don't get to feed them, but they do get to watch them.
Right, they do get to watch.
Oh, that is fascinating. I'm so intrigued by that. So these animals are not released ever?
No, once they are under our care, some of them, it is against the law to release them, or they're deemed non-releasable, particularly with our birds of prey. We have a lot of also reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates, some that were illegally taken from the wild or that were once pets and people just weren't able to take care of them anymore. And the reason we end up not releasing them is, one, they either are not native to Michigan, so we know they couldn't survive in the wild, or two, we don't know how long they have been exposed to humans. And so we are unsure when we receive them if they have lost any of their instincts, or if they were removed from a spot that didn't have a lot of pollution and now they're going to be in an area where there is. So it's a strange balance, but that's also why we have these programs. We try to say, here's this really cool animal. You've probably seen it in the wild. Make sure you leave it there, and here's why.
Yes. I know. My children one time tried to pick up some baby bunnies,
Mhm.
And I said, leave them alone, don't touch them. Well, being boys, they picked him up, dropped one of them. I took it from them and I said, all right, I'm going to take it to so-and-so who did,
Mhm.
I forget what it was called, Rehab of Animals. And I knew that she would tell me if the animal was as good as dead or if she could fix it. And I said, and the animal, they had to put it down. And I said to the boys, you see what happens? The mother will not come back because you were there, you messed up the nest, you killed this little rabbit, and blah, blah, blah. And they felt really bad. And my son, one of my sons to this day will not hunt. My husband's a hunter, and one of my sons will not hunt. I don't think it's the rabbit. I think it's, my son's personality. But
Yeah.
I do wish that people would understand that as intriguing as these animals are, you endanger them, any of them, even the little rabbits. You endanger all of those things by your presence.
Yeah, and that's why we're very thankful to be able to do programs like this and why we open up the opportunity for all ages. You're
Yes.
never too old to learn something new. There's always new things you can engage in, and maybe something you thought that was acceptable or something that you could do with an animal in the wild. You come to these programs, you see our site, and you realize, oh, this is something I never realized that I was doing or didn't do. And so it's a unique opportunity for us to have these teachable moments for a lot of our audience members.
And when you do these, do you often say, give a little warning about approaching wildlife and trying to make it a pet? Do you ever say anything about that?
Yeah, sometimes we have it to be question driven. So if people are interested in these animals as pets, we'll use that as a talking point. Oftentimes, especially with animals that are native to Michigan, here we'll make sure that we make a note of how to keep these animals wild or how to interact with them if they see one. Sometimes too, with especially our non-native reptiles, we often get a lot of questions about if they make good pets, how do I take care of them as our pet? And usually our big message is that there's a ton of research that has to be involved in having any animal as a pet, whether it's a spider or a snake. And so while not trying to promote having all of these animals in your household, the idea is that making sure that you find the information you need and do the research that you need to do before even considering any animal as a pet,
good advice.
even a cat or a dog.
Very good advice. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add or share about the center?
Sure. So we talked a lot about these programs where we come to your audiences, whether it's at your center or over a video screen. But we always like to make sure folks know that our site, our main area, kind of acts like a city park. So it is open to the public all day, every day for free. When folks visit, the main feature we talked about were our birds of prey or our raptor loop. We do also have about 30 acres of wooded trails and are in the process of creating more accessible pathways through our wooded area, including a natural playground for a younger audience to visit, but also for family members to engage in. We also still offer some of these public programs like our Raptor Feedings, where folks can book a tour of the raptor loop and be able to watch some of the animals eat. You're also welcome to check out more that we do with the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum. While they're a primarily indoor space, they do a lot of educational programs with us revolving around different STEM-based topics and also pertain to all audiences as well, not just students or younger ages.
Yes. Now, tell the audience where the center is located.
Absolutely. So we are based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The address is 1831 Traver Road. It's very funny because we are connected to a couple other Leslie spaces, including the Leslie Golf Course and Leslie Park, which is just north of us. All the land was once owned by the Leslie family, so we kept the names for that too. We're just north of the city, near the North Campus of the University of Michigan.
Do you have a phone number or a website that they can go to?
Absolutely. Best place to find any of our upcoming events or program opportunities is our website. It's just Leslie and then the letters snc.org. Or our phone number is also listed on our website, our main line being 734-997-1553.
Oh, that is great. Lannis, thank you so much for coming today.
Absolutely.
This was very educational for me, even though I've known about this place for years. So thank you for coming.
Of course.
And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. I do hope you get a chance one day to visit the Leslie Science and Nature Center. And I hope you join us next month to see what else is going on in Ann Arbor. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us on Senior Moments. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Linda Brayman. See you soon.